Since we're in the era or in the time of choosing sides, I think we should be very careful which side to choose. Basically, no side is the right side here. In general, in this conflict, and the conflict arrives from one side's one side's thought that they are actually absolutely right. So this is why conflict comes. Understanding is and cooperation is based on taking both sides into consideration and understanding that every side has some arguments to offer, which bring which can bring us to bettering ourselves. However, the sense that one side is perfect and ultimately superior in one sense or the other, and that other side is completely wrong, brings about conflicts. The lack of cooperation, the lack of understanding, the lack of listening, the lack of love for the other side. So basically, in this conflict, the both sides are wrong. Uh, the Western the Westerners here are so completely convinced um, of their high ground in a sense, and by that they've completely while they're being completely manipulated, and the manipulation of the media and what's happening in the media shows the view of a totalitarian also regime. Just like with the vaccines, the West is turning into a very one-sided sense of themselves being right and on the right side and whatnot. However, the main moves here in the West, I don't mean really the United or the United Europe, EU, European Union, but rather the manipulation comes from the far West, from the US. And you have to understand that they are becoming the ultimate manipulators of what the world politics looks like today. There are these peacekeepers and this pretense that they are protecting anybody but themselves is they're not even protecting themselves. They will see one day that they have made a grave mistake in thinking that this is the way to go. However, for them it is a way to go, because through these conflicts that they create, they're like the masterminds of chaos, really. And through these conflicts that they create, they look to benefit, and they benefit by stealing resources and by selling weapons. This is their benefit. So they've completely taken over the media world, and they're just manipulating really everybody into taking their side. If you don't take their side, you will suffer consequences, just like not being vaccinated. You will not be able to get a job, and even though you can still spread the virus, even though you are vaccinated, and the only one you're really protecting is yourself. You're not really protecting other people by being vaccinated. But this is just this manipulation that's been happening, and it's going on, and there's no other view that is allowed. So the media has stopped being the subjective medium where you can find out what's actually happening, and you can only be informed on what's happening based on an interest of a certain party or a certain group. And this little circle that you're all adopted into this family is really the evil of this world, because it limits you in many ways, and by eliminating the other side of the argument. So we're not growing as human beings. We're being deterred into growth, and we're made into little puppets through these mediums. And by listening to them, I mean, this should all be banned. Like, all information pretty much should, because and everybody, because everybody adopts this. Like, even in this Ukrainian U.S. conflict, like now Russia, they will also adopt this. I mean, they will shut down the mediums that are, the CNN and what the Western media, because of the retaliation. And also with these oligarchs in Russia. I mean, this was also created based on the oligarchs in the West. I mean, you don't think that oligarchs in the West exist. I mean, you only think that Russian oligarchs exist. I mean, we've all adopted, even Russia has adopted this insanity. And even with the crisis in Ukraine. I mean, when Cuba crisis existed in the, in the 40s, 50s, I'm not sure when, but this was the same thing. America was in complete panic, just like Russia is now. So why? Because they were thinking that the Russians would attack them. Now Russia is acting the same way. I mean, so this all comes from these masterminds of chaos, which are so afraid, really, in their own mind. However, they're managing to make everybody else afraid. This is what the most amazing thing is, that human beings have no mind of their own anymore. I mean, they're completely manipulated by the media into thinking what they want them to think and what they think. And obviously they're afraid, because they should be afraid. I mean, they're not willing to change, and they're going to very dark places from and just back to the oligarchs. I mean, they've created these same, and now they're paying the price in Russia just because of the money was really not given to the people, and made all the people rich. Now they are, more capable of surviving with the resources that they have. They will suffer probably under sanctions, unless Putin has like a master plan of how to avoid the damage on Russian population due to these sanctions. So, and I hope he does, because 300 million people will suffer, here. And nobody thinks about this. I mean, when sanctions are given, nobody cares, that there's lots of Russian people who don't support Putin, who don't think that this is relevant to their lives. I mean, everybody thinks about themselves. So, but I guess that's another part of human nature, for which there is a price. So nobody cares about these 300 million people who will, probably lose the means of, by losing the means to the European Union and to the other markets, that they will suffer in some way, that they will lose their jobs because they won't be able to export whatnot. Nobody cares, no. So this whole sense that we're superior in some way, by our arguments and by our lack of information towards somebody else, is a complete insanity which is brought about this situation. And it's and the parties who are being affected are the parties who are really innocent in all of this. So these masterminds of chaos that will like sell weapons now, and which will arm the world against the Russia, are winning. I mean, they're winning, and the whole world is allowing them to win, because they are just stupid. They just, okay, it's easiest to just like pick a side and to go with it. And this has been proved over and over and over again, that they have no real intent, that their true intent, is so hidden. I mean, from everybody, that nobody understands why they do this, and they think they have the good intention of people in their mind, which is so like far from true, that it's so obvious that this is not the case. That I mean, it's the overwhelming evidence in the US, in and everywhere, is just to enrich and the little circle and to to devastate the rest, and to make them more in need of their help, so that they can show up like these saviors, and they can fill their own egos with the idea that they're doing something right. Um, but this is all false. This is all total treachery, and and it's it, and I can't believe that we're so limited on this planet, that we are completely blinded into emotional and into this disturbed behavior, which is brought about by such cool minds, who have no real uh, feelings for anybody. I mean, they don't care whether the prices in Europe jump, whether the inflation in the US, I mean, they don't care. They understand that in the long run they will survive because they have more than you do, and they will benefit from the situation, because once all of you suffer, you will you will beg them for credits for rebuilding of the nations. This Ukraine has to be rebuilt. I mean, these people still have to live somewhere. This is still going to be a state of their own. I mean, where people have to live, and to trust these people with this. I mean, everybody's making a mistake. War should not happen. Armies should not exist. This is just an insane place we live in, and it's just important to take this every side that you take in this conflict, and further in life is to understand that they don't care about you. It's unbelievable how much of a campaign has been led against people, and in the name of money and benefiting the few. And no matter how many times people repeat this, this is not really being understood. So I beg you not to take sides. Everybody here is at fault, and Russia here is at fault because their oligarchs are now will be they I mean, there's massive also stealing. I mean, this is stealing of private property. So there is no law, there is no freedom of press, there is no independence from this. It's die, or it is death if you're basically not according to what they claim to be the truth. So this is like the modern Nazism. It's just not carried out in a sense of killing instantly the the party that's against them. It is just basically inflicting economical damage on that group which is against you, by by not providing work, with COVID, with North Korea. I mean, look at these people. Why? Because their government wants to be communist. I mean, everybody has the right to do what they want. I mean, social regimes are far more superior than morally than these capitalist regimes. So this whole world is still a battle. Cold War, as everybody says, is still happening, where the socialism and capitalism are in this battle, and with capitalism, you have to know that an average person will lose. I mean, the world should be a mixture of these two influences, and not strictly one influence, because the influence, especially in capitalism, which is obviously winning here, is just not good. And that's why European Union was a great disappointment, because they have social justice that's been carried out, and and you know they were leading, and also under the cap of capitalistic society, they also had, I mean, very, very, very advanced social structure carried in their countries. So they're the greatest disappointment because they were the ones who were really merging these two ideas into one, which will benefit, which will not leave anybody desperate, uh, leave in desperation. So 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 there are lots of points to consider here. So don't be closed-minded, and understand that the world is like splitting up in two, basically, and that none of the two sides really are absolutely good. Nobody's good here. Wars are not good. The greed is not good. The socialistic laziness is not good. These are all sins, as from ancient history shows us. The Bible shows us that these are not the methods which you will reach peace and God and love towards your fellow man. So please be careful when you consider everything that you do and say in these situations, because it may cost you. It may not cost you by the present regime that you're supporting or denying, but it may cost you in terms of the absolute truth, which you will have to face someday. And I hope that then by then you understand what is right and what is wrong, and because maybe those consequences will be far greater on everybody than these current situations and these current emotional outbursts. So of who's right and who's wrong. Okay, so thanks for listening.